When I get a lot of people that talk about like platforming dangerous ideas and freedom of speech, the one thing that I wish people would recognize, this is a big fault that the right has, is freedom of speech is not free. It's like firearms, right? Like firearms are cool. I enjoy shooting, but by having more of them in the United States, people are going to die to firearms. That's an unavoidable reality, having firearms in this country. But we have to acknowledge that for some freedoms that we have, for some freedoms that we value, there's going to be a necessary trade-off or a cost to have that freedom. So when we talk about like freedom of speech, the proliferation of certain ideas on the internet are probably going to cause harm. There are going to be some people that go and shoot up a school, bomb a building, get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated, whatever. And we have to at least acknowledge that any conversation about like freedom of speech or these types of freedoms has to start with a recognition that there's going to be pros and cons on any side of that argument that you occupy. There is no side where everything is just purely good with no downside whatsoever.
I would actually like, so as the designated right-wing representative on the panel, I would actually like to perhaps dispute this assertion from the perspective of one Nick Fuentes, right? Somebody who you've spoken with, I think, on multiple occasions. And of course, I'm not necessarily shaming you for that, but Fuentes is not nominally, he's not representative of mainstream ideas on the right. And largely, platforming Fuentes casts the right in this absurd light that is fundamentally divorced from reality. Fuentes, his positions are not mainstream by any means.
I mean, didn't a lot of people say the same about Trump in 2016? Like, I feel like a lot of the media coverage of Trump was, this guy's a joke, he can't make it, everybody derided him in the media, there's no chance. It was whether it was making fun of McCain, whether it was another tape that got leaked, whether it was him saying that women that get abortions should go to jail. I think everybody thought that like that guy couldn't make it, but there were a lot of people out there that had those opinions that we completely missed because we decided that he didn't represent anything in this country. So I guess when I have conversations with people like even Fuentes, I acknowledge that he occupies a pretty niche position right now on the political spectrum. There's definitely no doubt about that.
Extremely.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that I think every extremist, and when I say extremist, I just mean like kind of niche political ideology. I think it kind of like stems from similar foundations where you've got a group of people in the country, they feel like they're unheard, and Fuentes speaks to those people the same way that Andrew Tate might speak to somebody, the same way that Donald Trump might speak to somebody, the same way that Bernie Sanders might have spoken to somebody.
But here's the issue. I would actually disagree with conflating a guy like Trump and a guy like Fuentes, because Fuentes espouses Catholic integralist nationalism, which is a niche of a niche of a niche. It's also entirely culturally dependent, right? You're talking about perhaps Ireland, Portugal, Spain, maybe Quebec. These are all lapsed Catholic countries. This is not a serious idea, even if you have guys like Adrian Vermeule at Harvard who espouse integralism and who Fuentes, by the way, never cites. It's just not the same thing as somebody saying, hey, maybe we should reform our immigration policy. The two are fundamentally very, very different.
Is it your view then that there are some people so beyond the pale that they should never be spoken to?
You could talk to anybody you want. I really don't care. But the point is, when you talk to somebody, and this is where the conversation of platforming comes up, what you have to be mindful is, nobody likes normie Republicans. Nobody likes them. They're boring. Their ideas are shallow. They're pedantic. They're overly spiritualizing and moralizing, and it's terrible. And yet, despite this, they are the mainstream Republican caucus of this country. Now, it's not good streaming content to talk to these folks, and I'll give you that. However, unfortunately, you're going to have to pull up to a Target, speak to a random 50-year-old woman who's 100 pounds overweight, and you're going to have to get her opinion on something. And that's going to be far more representative of American popular opinion than Nick Fuentes could ever hope to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily doubt that. That's probably true. But I just spent like a year on my stream going over trans issues, and I'm kind of burnt out on that. It seems like that's all Republicans want to talk about right now on the national level. Honestly, on the online kind of platforms that I inhabit, I noticed that it feels like the kind of like the center-right people. I'll say like Daily Wire-esque. That those people are pretty insulated. They don't really like talk to many people. Like on any panel that I go on where I'm talking to, admittedly smaller kind of like conservative people online, all of these people consider themselves like, if not a little bit, like significantly to the right of people like Ben Shapiro, to the right of people like the Daily Wire. So I don't know where like all the center-right conservative people online are outside of the Daily Wire. It feels like they don't exist. It's just like these little collections of like very extremist people.
Let me tell you who the most right-wing guy in America is, Destiny. Right now. No, it's not you, random voice from the audience. It's some guy with a boat. Some guy somewhere in America. He lives maybe in Utah. Maybe he lives in Texas. Maybe he lives in New York State near the Finger Lakes. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, some guy with a boat is the most right-wing person in America, and it doesn't even come close. The uninformed, apolitical individual is more right-wing than any politically involved person could ever hope to be.
Okay, so me and Destiny both make our money by speaking to people on the internet. Is it our job to give a representative spread of all different views? It's our show, it's my show, it's his show. He can speak to the people that he chooses to. If Fuentes is one of them, if he decides to tumble down a trans rabbit hole for a year, or if he decides to play StarCraft obsessively for 3 months without talking to anyone about everything, that's also his choice. I just wonder where, coming from a content creator perspective, what obligation do you think that we have to speak to people that we don't want to speak to?
As content creators, your first obligation is to make money. That's your first obligation, okay? I don't know. Anyway, no, but it's true. That is your first obligation. However, if we want to be fair about it, yeah, talk to Fuentes. Again, I don't care. But you also have to talk to some guy with a boat. You have to find whatever that political equivalent is. Why do you have to talk to them? If you want to be representative.
But why do you want to be representative?
If you want to actually have a mainstream Republican political position that is represented on your platform, if you want that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that the primary motive of the content creator is to make money. I disagree with that. I think content creators should, if they don't want to make money, they don't, whatever the content creators want to do, they should do independent of money. But if it's money, then why would you need to speak to people who are representative if that won't make you as much money?
Oh, I'm saying the point is to make money. But if you want to be, morally, in my opinion.
I'm just curious, is that your point? Is your point to make money, Chris? Is your point to make money, Stephen? Is that why you do what you do?
I mean, not really. I mean, there's other things I could do to make more money. I don't necessarily even disagree that it would be cool to talk to Republicans that represent more of like the spread of like where most Republicans are at. It's pretty, I think I even said on my stream, like it's kind of exhausting talking to only like Christian nationalists and communists when it's like 95% of America is not here. But gee, am I allowed to cuss up here? Yeah, fuck. Online content is
Streaming
like
on your channel.
It's overwhelmed with extremists, so it is very tiring. I mean, I make an effort to reach out to the Matt Walshes, the Michael Knowles, or whoever I can try to tweet at and bully on Twitter until they jump on and talk. But like I said, I feel like a lot of the people in these kind of realms, even like people like Crowder, are pretty insulated. They don't want to to be fair for a lot of them. Like, there's not much point in having an open conversation or debate, right? Like, they either win, in which case, who cares, or they lose and they look bad. So it's hard to get these guys to come out of their box to have a conversation. I imagine it's probably true for center-left people, too. I just don't engage with them as much because I'm kind of center-left.
So just very quickly on that note, so what we do is we go out and have, with Spectrum Street Epistemology, we set lines of tape up all over the world, and we have conversations with people. Anybody can come. They're free. They're open to public, and they're on sidewalks. So, but that's just what I do. I don't know why one would think that that's what other people have to do.
I think, again, if your aim supposedly is to foster some kind of an inclusive or democratic dialogue, then you should. Now, that might not be the aim of a content creator. And again, I actually believe that it's a job, guys. Come on, and obviously you are making money doing it. However, you're right. I don't want to belittle the integrity of anybody on this stage. But the thing I am trying to say is if you do want to actually have a broader scope, a more representative scope, then, yeah, you need to talk to boring people.
But do you actually care who Destiny talks to, or are you just bitter that Fuentes is being considered more mainstream?
But he isn't really being considered more mainstream.
You just said that.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, well...
I think the idea is that, like, if I'm I don't have to steal in your position, because I think I largely agree with you. If the conservatives that I talk to on my stream every single day are, like, Christian nationalists, alt-righters, race realists, like, the impression that my audience is going to get is like, oh, I guess the average conservative is like a neo-Nazi, right? Which is not really fair. That's not really true. for the average conservative. But again, it's just really hard to find moderate people really anywhere on the internet. Like moderate stuff just doesn't sell. Nobody likes it. It's not like exciting to do. Like I go on panels and I describe myself literally as an establishment shill, almost tongue in cheek, because like every single person at like all of these events is like the most like anti-establishment person you can get, whether they're on the left or the right. So yeah, I mean, I try to find it, but it's really hard to bring them out of their bubbles. They all kind of inhabit their little safe spaces. Yeah.
I suppose my perspective is I made a living selling content to moderate conservatives, and there are plenty of them. But they just don't have any content that's aimed for them. If you create it, they'll come.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.